What's going on here, which is so typical of this administration, is they are targeting particular people.
What the Trump administration is saying is evidence of mortgage fraud has been mischaracterized.
This type of mortgage fraud, though, about
secondary residences,
right?
Yeah,
not usually a standalone crime.
I have some more wonderful CNN reporting from Aaron Burnett about the Trump administration and their political weaponization of the DOJ against Democrats, launching investigation after investigation and more. So if you can't, strap in, leave us a like on the video. It helps us out a ton, gives us a boost in the algorithm, and let's get right to the content.
they're pointing the finger at Cook and Letitia James and Adam Schiff. So what about in your own house? So you went and looked in their house and his cabinet. 3 cases within the Trump administration that certainly seem to meet Bill Pulte's definition of what should be investigated. 2 primary residences at the same time. He says that should get a criminal referral. What'd you find?
Yeah, I mean, so a couple things. First of all, I've been spending a lot of time on the phone with real estate lawyers, and they told me, first of all, that what the Trump administration is saying is evidence of mortgage fraud has been mischaracterized, and that sometimes there might be legitimate reasons why you might have 2 of these mortgages, and you really have to look at the facts of each case, figure out intent. But, you know, as you said, by the standard they have put out there, all 3 of these cabinet officials, I think the strongest example is the labor secretary, have 2 of these primary residence mortgages that tend to get lower interest rates.
For those who are maybe a bit lost or haven't been keeping up with our coverage, their coverage, anything, Trump has launched investigation after investigation over mortgage fraud into Adam Schiff, into Letitia James. There's a few more, all Democrats. The problem is when all experts look into what he's alleged, none of it is genuine fraud. And that's why no progress has been made in these investigations. They've just been launched as a means to 1, scare Democrats, 2, give MAGA talking points, and 3, cost these people money. But like, no charges are coming, no charges will be coming because they're not going to hold up to a grand jury, let alone an actual trial. Trump is essentially, again, just doing it for talking points. He doesn't understand, MAGA really doesn't understand, as they go, it's fair because it was fair when it happened to Trump, that it just makes them look like hypocrites in the long run to anyone with common sense. It doesn't make us look like hypocrites, and it's obvious weaponization, unlike anything that ever happened against Trump, which was free and fair trials, charges, and more, as he's leveraging bunk charges against Democrats while having those in his cabinet doing the same thing and not charging them, adding even more evidence to the fact that this is political weaponization, of which you can't point to any Democrat doing it, because meanwhile, multiple Democrats were prosecuted, including Biden's own son in his administration. This is what actual weaponization looks like, ladies and gentlemen.
So what are the similarities between Trump administration officials and Trump's, I guess there's no other way to describe Cook and Letitia James and Adam Schiff other than his enemies, his rivals, in terms of the mortgages?
So each of these cases have, again, like their own set of specific facts. And also each of these cases, including with Cook and Schiff, we just don't have all the information around what their intent was, the exact circumstances. But with Schiff, Senator Schiff, for example, one of the allegations against him by the administration has been exactly what we saw with the labor secretary and also the transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, which is that he got 2 of these primary residence mortgages for 2 properties in a relatively short time span in the same year.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we saw with the labor secretary, Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, and his wife, who's a Fox News host here in New York. They got a primary residence mortgage for their place in New Jersey. They just bought a new place in Washington, D.C., also primary residence.
And I feel the need to stress again when we get into this that none of it is an actual crime, not from Democrats, not from Republicans, which is why these Republicans weren't targeted for it under Donald Trump, but Donald Trump was for his actual crime, so it's not even kind of comparable. But again, Trump is going to ignore it from the right. MAGA is going to cry that these are fair charges and on the up and up, but they're just, coincidentally not getting brought against the Republicans, because anything against Trump is fake, but anything Trump does is good and trustworthy. Meanwhile, every Democrat now has to answer for it and absolutely deserves it, but Trump never deserved any of his charges, and this is fair, and all of us are serious people. MAGA is serious and should be taken serious. Like, the goal of this is to do exactly what he did to his political enemies in the first term. Like, we have the playbook. Subject them to costly investigations to drain their pockets because they're not as rich as you are. No charges will ever come from this. I don't know how many times I'll make any bet with any MAGA. None of these Democrats will face any charges. Not like they won't even, it won't even be, I'm not even saying like it'll get through grand jury and they'll be indicted. It won't even be brought to grand jury, let alone indicted, right? This will never make it to trial. It's just, again, like, it's only evidence that Trump's charges were legit. Because Trump's charges made it to grand jury, made it through grand jury, made it to trial where he was then convicted unanimously. None of that will happen with any of these Democrat charges.
Now, of course, they all deny wrongdoing, but I mean, Mimi, I guess I'm just looking back to the original comment made by the person who is supposedly in charge of looking into this, Bill Pulte. If somebody is claiming 2 primary residences, that is not appropriate, and we will refer it for criminal investigation. So putting aside the legal standard, right, of every case is its own unique fingerprint, right? By their own standard, every single one of these things that you have just uncovered, Mimi, right, would be criminal investigation, right?
By the standard that Pulte set, yes, that he should now go refer them for criminal investigation. But the point here is this. First of all, these are not normally the kind of mortgage fraud is a common crime charged federally. This type of mortgage fraud, though, about
secondary residences,
right?
Yeah,
not usually a standalone crime. It's usually in the federal prosecutor toolbox. Like they have bigger other things to do. Mm-hmm. But what's going on here, which is so typical of this administration, is they are targeting particular people.
It is appalling to me how obvious it is that we're dealing with children, and now half the country either doesn't care or actively cheers it on. Like, these are still the people like in charge of our nuclear codes and stuff, guys. Like, the pettiness, the juvenile behavior should be worrisome. These people are actively doing real political weaponization of the DOJ, all to get back at the fact that they're butthurt that Donald Trump was held accountable for a small minority of the crimes he absolutely committed, where he received literally no punishment for committing them. Not a single other American could say the same. But it's like, just because of the fact he was held accountable, MAGA feels that Pandora's box has now been opened, and every Democrat deserves to be investigated for actual sham charges, have their personal lives affected, their financial status implemented, and more, because, well, Donald Trump is the president and they play for the blue team. It's the actual, literal banana republic these clowns pretended to be afraid of for years. Do not ever take them serious again. Do not ever let them have a seat at the table again. These people have exposed themselves, and I hope this 4 years of America's destruction was worth it to never have any political capital again or ever be taken serious as a voting bloc again. You're bigots, you're fascists, and you have no idea what you're talking about, MAGA. Thanks, though, for destroying America and our democracy.